Hey folks, Ty Cohen here from KindleCashFlow.com, and today I've got another great interview for you. I think you're really gonna love this one, especially if you're looking for ways to like create legacy for yourself. If you're looking for ways to create generational wealth, if you're looking for ways to just actually get your money to work for you in other ways. I know a lot of you guys that are watching this thing, you may be into Kindle publishing, you may be into internet marketing, you may be into other ways of generating income. And then you're looking for additional ways to park some of that money, to grow some of that money, or to just get started in other ways outside of internet marketing or outside of Kindle publishing. As you know, I'm a big fan of digital real estate. I'm also a fan of traditional real estate. And today we've got someone that is a master at traditional real estate, and we're going to talk to him in just a couple of minutes. But before we do that, you know that you guys get a chance to win some really cool prizes. We've got some Amazon gift cards. As you can see here, I've got these Amazon gift cards in the denomination of $25 to $500. So you can get a chance to win one of these. We've also got some Apple AirPods that you can get a chance to win. I actually sent another set of these out yesterday to Justin Trevitt. Justin Trevitt, if you're watching, he's in North Carolina. Just give us a shout out there. You can also win an Apple Watch, right? And then we have 2 MacBook Airs that you can get a chance to win. So there's a rose gold one here, and then there's I think this is silver, maybe a space gray. They would classify that as. So now, how do you win? You're probably wondering, Ty, I want one of these sets of AirPods that you're sending out, these Apple Watches, or even maybe like these Amazon gift cards. How do you win? One of the ways that you can win is you actually get 4 ways to win. So the first way, subscribing to our YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube right now, if you're listening to the podcast and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. That's the first way that you can enter. The second way that you can enter is by commenting. We're gonna share some gems with you guys. We're gonna share some jewels with you. So comment, all right? Listen, reciprocity is one of the biggest laws to success. So you get more, you gain more by sometimes just reciprocating and just saying, hey, I love the interview, or great stuff. Something simple. It doesn't have to be this long, drawn out, report, right? Just one word. Hey, great stuff, guys. So commenting is the second way that you're entered in to win some of these cool gifts and prizes that I have here. The third way is by liking. If anything, it could be a single word that is said during this conversation, this interview appeals to you, like this video, like the audio, all right? And then the fourth way is by sharing it, of course, right? So we help others to become more successful, and then in turn, we're helping ourselves, right? So this is not just a one-way street. We're helping other people. As we have this saying here in the Kindle Cash Flow community, we are our brother and sisters keepers. And what does that mean? That means that we don't just want to see success for ourselves. We want to see everyone see success, because that's how we become even more fruitful. So with that said, I want to welcome someone that I think is the man, and many of you have probably met him before, whether it's in the Kindle Cash Flow community or maybe at one of our Kindle Cash Flow live events, and you've gotten a chance to come up to him and maybe record a video with him and be part of his catchphrase, which is the boom. We're gonna have to do that at the end of this thing here, because I've always wanted to do that. We haven't ever done that, man. What's going on with this? This is Lenny the Boss, real estate extraordinaire, husband, father, all around great guy. And Lenny, man, it's my pleasure to have you on the show.
No, hey, man, thank you. I mean, that was an awesome intro. I got my pen, I got my pad. I was writing down how to win, because, those prizes are just absolutely amazing. So I'm going to immediately I'm going to share, I'm going to comment a couple times. I might even sign on as somebody else and comment again, but no, Ty, man, you know what? Thank you for that awesome introduction, man. And I definitely appreciate you taking the time and also asking me to be here with the community. That's a fantastic thing. So thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So I want to get right to it. I know it's 7 o'clock in the morning right now as we're doing this. And I want to respect your time. So tell us briefly, who is Leonard Nesmith? What, because you didn't automatically just snap your fingers and become this guy who now has multiple properties, has tenants, and, you're building up what I like to call a real estate empire. I like to look into the future, right? And say, man, I knew this guy when he was starting on his journey, when he was partly into it. And now look at him. He's this guy who's got all of these properties. So who is Leonard Nesmith?
All right, well, first and foremost, man, I one thing I admire about you, right, is family first, right? So I'm a family guy. Like, I'm a fantastic husband, I think, anyway, right? I'm a
Sometimes you gotta give yourself the credit, right?
Hey, man, somebody gotta give yourself a pat on the back, right? I'm a father. I love my son or my stepdaughter. I really do love them. I'm a son. I'm a brother. To many, and I'm a friend. So that's who I am. That's my grounds, right? Now, truth be told is, my background, I grew up in a rough environment, where everyone was destined to either involve themselves in some negativity or be killed or whatever. But, that just wasn't the path that, I wanted to take. So, early on, which I really didn't even understand, but I start living this thing I call the practice life, right? Where, I want to be a certain way. So every day all the way up to today, and still I practice to be a certain way. So I feed my mind, with things that that's going to help me think positively, that's going to help grow me, and I practice that every single day. I don't watch the news, because I don't want any negative thoughts. I do my affirmations in the morning. I'm teaching my son, he's 8, the affirmations as well. He thinks it's a joke, but so that's me, man. I like to tell people I live a practice life, and the practice life allows me to be who I am today, which is happy, which is an individual who, write down their goals and go after them, and an individual who like to complete what he starts.
So I'm fascinated by what you just said. I'm fascinated by what you just said, a practice life, right? And
I think that's so important, because sometimes we're in these situations and we have this vision for where we want to be, but we don't know how to get there, right? We might not have any resources, as far as we may not have anyone around us that's doing it. We may not have the funds, right? The money to get there. We may not have the experience. We may not have parents or grandparents or someone in our family that were doing it before us that we can look at as examples. So being able to step in and say, this is the person that I want to become. Let me start acting, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, but I'm assuming this is it. Let me start training my mind and myself as the individual to step into this person that I see myself becoming in the future. Is that what you're saying by practice life?
Yeah, 100%. The best thing you can ever do is have some vision. And honestly, you don't really need the vision in between the lines. You just need the vision of you winning, right? Seeing the vision that you, who you want to be, that ending result. And just being active, and practicing, is where and how you get there. So absolutely, yes, sir. Seeing that ending result. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right, and listen, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, I want to make it very clear that what Lenny's calling the practice life, and I've heard it called so many different things. It's much different than fake it till you make it, right? That's different. I hate when I hear that, fake it till you make it, because sometimes you'll see people walking around and they're strutting around with a suit on, or they're doing this and yeah, man, and that is not it. That's not going to move you much closer. I mean, it could, I guess, depending on who you are and how you're doing it, but with this, it's embodying and that whole entire belief of something being possible for you. So it's not only you speaking in a way that you believe that it's possible, right? You saying it, even when it's not there. Napoleon Hill talks about the ability to see something even when it's not there. And that's how you start the seeds of it becoming, something that's there, right? Every building that was built, every car, you look at Tesla, right? Elon Musk, he had that idea and he had to believe that, this was possible for him. Even someone like him who came up from modest means, right? He had to believe that this is the company that I'm going to build. This is how it's going to affect the lives of so many people, not only just in this one country, but planet-wide. So being able to see where you want to go, how it's going to impact not only your life, but the lives of other people, and then what's going to be that give back. For me personally, when I've practiced the practice life that Lenny's talking about, those are the things that I incorporate into it. So Lenny, so now you're growing up in this environment, right, that is not conducive to what it is that you saw for your future. Mm-hmm. Man, did you see people around you that were into real estate investing? Did you see people around you that kind of were able to guide you along the way?
Did, and it's funny because, you got to watch out for what you hear and what people say. So, I did have friends that was getting into real estate early on than me, but they were really close friends, like inside scoop friends, tell you the things inside. But the only thing I ever heard was complaints, about tenants and complaints about, contractors and complaints, and they were just mad and disgruntled. So, this is my friend, someone that, I know, and I'm just like, I don't want that in my life. So as years went on, I noticed that like every year they was buying another property. So
they were complaining about buying another property.
Yeah.
Right.
So after, I don't know, 3-4 years went by, I'm like, dude, what's up? Like you keep continuously complaining, but you are buying more properties. To me, that don't make any sense. Right. I said, what's going on here? And he laughed. I remember the day like it was yesterday. And he said, no, they just a pain in my but he said, truthfully, this is what it's doing for me and my family. And that is what really opened the door. He finally lifted up the covers because I asked the right question, right? Rather than just being a listening ear because that's what I was to him. He came to me to just vent out his frustrations. And I took that in and said, wow, this is something I do not want, to be in, and, but once he told me that, hey, I started noticing, he started upgrading his life. He's start going on vacations more. And I thought it was because, and he had a 9-to-5, right? I thought it was because, him and his wife was working some overtime and killing it there. But that wasn't the case. The case was, the cash flow that they was receiving in. They started to enjoy some of it. They upgraded their vehicles. They moved, to a nicer environment, a nicer home. And it wasn't just because of their 9-to-5. It was because of that extra cash flow income that they was able to bring in to do some things that changed their lives.
Very cool. Very cool. So I think you bring up a good point there, and that is looking at actually, you actually said you have to watch the difference between what you hear and what people say, right? What they hear and what you hear and what they say, because this guy or gal or whatever was saying, man, it's a pain in the butt, tenants are a problem, but yet year after year they're buying more properties, which is kind of like that mismatch. So you had to say, well, is there something that, now two things could be happening here. We could look at that and say, well, either they're keeping something from me intentionally, or, it's just human nature to complain sometimes, right? Or you could just say, hey, well, maybe this could be the person's personality, or maybe, they're more apt to talk about what's negative in it versus the positive. So it could be any of those different things. And I have to carefully watch. I think we gain so much by watching what someone does, right? Children are masters at doing this. Yes. Children are masters at, we can say, hey, make sure your room stays clean. As a matter of fact, I was talking to my daughter Summer and my son Tyler yesterday about this, and they want the new iPhone that came out, right? So Tyler says, hey, we're at the kitchen table, we're talking, Dad, I want to get the new iPhone, yada, yada, yada. And I've always talked to them about the difference between assets and liabilities,
Yes.
right? And giving them examples of this, assets and liabilities. And I'm the type of guy that can go for years without upgrading my phone. I'll get I'll have the oldest one. So I'm like, Tyler, Tyler's doing the dishes, and I'm like, Tyler, if you want to get this new phone, is that going to be an asset or a liability? And he starts to think about it, right? And he says, it's going to be a liability. And then Summer chimes in, no, it's going to be an asset. Dad, you've always told us that we can work from our phones and our phones can make us money. And I send emails from my phone and I do this and I communicate with my freelancers from my phone. Now she's 13 years old, right? And she watched what I do, meaning me working on my phone. If we're traveling and if we're in the middle of a commute, I can work on my phone. I can communicate with my team. I could do some things, right? And I've talked to them in the past. I kind of forgot this last night when I was talking to them. I talked to them in the past that your phone could actually be an asset if you're using it as such, right? So kids are masters at this. They can flip the script on you. So you got to be very careful right there. So how did you get to that point? Like, that's not something that we naturally pick up, watching what someone does versus listening to what they say. At what point in life did you get that, and how did you get that?
Well, I honestly, I think it's just instinctive for me. I'm very great. I'm going to say, I think it's just a gift that was given to listening well. I listen to people very well, and I, for whatever reason, watch people very well. And sometimes, the path that you're talking versus the actions that you're taking are not parallel. And when they're not parallel, it stands out like a big red dot to me. Now, depending on who you are is how I approach it. Like in this case, with my buddy in the real estate, I'm like, hey, your communication to me and your actions are not parallel with one another. So you have to sit here and tell me the inside scoop. Now, I also believe that, it's not that person's job to tell me the inside scoop. It's my job to sit there and ask him for the inside scoop. So, for the listeners, I want that to be noted, is that, no one owes you anything.
Right? Talk about that.
And it's up to you. And you have a saying I've heard, and I jack this saying up all the time, so help me out. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Is that right?
If it's meant to be, it's up to me. You got it right, man. Yeah.
Right. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. So, with that saying, you got to be the one to engage. You got to be the one to understand what's going on with your circle. What are your goals, and go out there and make it happen. So I don't blame my friend for, coming over and complaining to me all the time. I blame myself for just accepting the complaints and not investigating further, on, okay, like, why are you complaining? Like, what are the other side to this? Like, why you didn't sell the property or properties that you had? Like, so that's my job and not the individuals. And I just want that to be noted for the listeners to understand that it's your job to ask the right questions, to understand, and if that helps you out, move you further, or it keeps you at bay, because it could have, right? He could have said, hey, we're planning to sell, and obviously that would have been a different conversation, right? You know what I mean? It would have then at that point would have been parallel, right? So, but that wasn't the case. So,
yeah, no, man, that's beautiful. Asking the right questions. I think that we change the way that we perceive things. And we also change what we get when we ask the right questions. We're like, we change the path of our lives big time when we ask the right questions. As a matter of fact, I just put a post up on Facebook maybe about a week ago that said something similar to that. And it was, hey, instead of saying I can't afford it, ask how can I afford it, right? Instead of saying like things cost too much, ask, well, how can I afford things regardless of how much they cost, right? Regardless of, I had to get to that position where, my wife would go grocery shopping, and instead of us buying the store brand, and only being able to afford that, getting out of that and saying, well, how can I afford, for my wife to buy whatever the hell we want whenever she goes grocery shopping? It doesn't, and not having to look at prices. And that didn't change until I started asking myself that question, how can I? Because when you make a statement such as, I can't afford it, that closes off the mind.
Right.
Closes off the mind to all possibilities. But when you ask that question, how can I? You start with that, it opens up the mind, and you'll be amazed at this tool that we have, man. The mind that it starts to search for answers. It's like this missile seeking, tool that we have that just boom, 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 boom. I think you've mastered that. So how did your question of how can I start to afford real estate? How can I get into real estate? For the person that's watching this, right? What was one of your first steps? They might be looking at this video. They may be saying, hey, I can't afford it. I don't know anyone that has real estate. Len, you had an advantage. You had someone who can actually at least answer a question for you. What would you say to that person that's trying to get started, would like to get started, but they doubt that they can do this thing?
It's called active. So people ask me the question, how do I get real estate, right? And I say, honestly speaking, all you have to do is just be active. And what I mean by that is, jump in, right? Start by buying a book, right? Start by buying a course, start by talking to people and telling them that, you want to get into real estate, because you have so many different people that's in this world and so many hands that's in the cookie jar of real estate. You got individuals that are straight investors. You got individuals that will invest in your dream, right? You got individuals where, you can do some research and figure out creative ways to get financing. You got 3 or 4 different mainstreams of strategies to get into real estate, which will take extremely low, money if you just want to hold it for yourself. So, the education piece is where you start, and communication. So you telling the world, right, what you want and what you want to do, and for whatever reason, the world start to answer the questions. So, like you said earlier about, how can I make this money, right? Is how can I get into real estate? And once you start being active and joining some communities, you will obviously link up with some other people, likewise individuals, people that are much further than you down the line, people that are, even, and people that's a little behind you as well. And so, I guess to answer the question again, the first thing you could do today is to buy yourself some literature, get yourself a program, where it steps you through, and then start to be active with seeing some real estate. That's the starting point.
Very cool. Man, I love that answer, because
and that takes a couple bucks. Buying a book, is an investment. $14, $15, doesn't matter if it's a hard book, audio book, whatever it takes for you to take in that information quickly. All right. Now that's the key word, quickly, right? Because it's another saying that you say is money loves speed. So
money loves speed. Yeah.
So if you know that gaps of time is a little challenging to read a hard book, but that you drive a half an hour, to work in the morning, half an hour home, then guess what? That's 1 hour of audiobook a day that you can take in. So turn off the music, turn off the sports radio, right? And kick on some audio. Also, another time you mow the lawn once a week, right? Well, guess what? That's another time you could pop the audios in. Also people who clean, where you cleaning your house, your bathroom, your windows, or whatever the situations are. Guess what? Boom. That's time that you can
working out. When you're working
out, getting your buff on, right? Yeah. Like these are times you could take advantage and use the audio to your advantage to take in that information. So
yeah. Hey man, when I'm not around family or I'm doing any of those things, I always have something, and I'm always listening to something, whether it's playing through the speakers, and I'm always trying to educate myself, and I'm always challenging myself to learn about different things during different seasons. Now, every day you don't want to pick up something different. You're learning about cooking today, and then flying a plane tomorrow, because then you'll never get anything accomplished, right? You're all over the place. But I think that's beautiful, man, being able to take action and being quick with it and immediately doing something. So your first property, what was that? Walk us through that process of like, what was your first property? Like, if you don't mind sharing, do you mind sharing numbers or anything like that? Like, I'd love to get some numbers. Like, what did you're going in, buying your first property. How did you get past the fear? And then what steps did you take?
Okay. So first and foremost, you know, the first step that you always take is finding a target market. Okay. So finding one zip code, if that's going to be in your backyard, you know, 30 to the hour away, you know, then that's fine, right? Find a target market. All right. When you find this target market, you know, a few things you can look for, you know, in that target market, which people love, right? Obviously school districts, people got kids, people want their kids to go to good schools, right? Parks, people love parks, right? People got pets that they take to the parks. They got kids that they take to the parks. They work out at the parks, right? Another thing is expressways and transportation, right? Like people like to get to places, you know, as quick as possible, right? You know, so there's expressways and transportation there. And then of course, entertainment and jobs, you know, that's local, you know, is always a benefit, because obviously you want these individuals to continuously work so they can sit there and pay their rent. So that's 4 quick things I just want to give, you know, the listeners on what to key on when you're looking for a target market. So focus on the zip code, right? Learn everything about that zip code that you can, all right? You know, learn where, you know, the developments where people rent versus people are buying, you know, learn what the rents are, you know, in the area, all right? Because what happens here is you have to be able to calculate, you know, your cash flow, your cash on cash return quickly. And then I'm gonna get into the deal after this. You know, it's very important to understand that, you know, it's not what the house look like, it's what the numbers look like. So you can
say that again, Len.
Okay. It's not what the house look like. Okay. It's not that you can have 2 houses, right? You can have one house where it's beautiful, immaculate, from top to bottom. You can have another house where it's bad, it's terrible, it's distressed. It got holes in the ceiling, the walls, and the pipes are all bust out. Both of them can be excellent opportunities. Okay. When you run the numbers on both, that one that's immaculate might not be the one you should buy. The one that is in distress because of the numbers are the one that you could potentially buy. Now, just use that as an example of, don't get caught up with what a property look like. Get caught up with the numbers that the property presents.
Yeah, and I think that's easy to do, right? There's an example of a property that you and I were looking at, and I kind of got caught up with. This thing was beautiful, 15 units, and you know, it's right on the water, and I'm like, and Lenny brought this to my attention, right? The numbers don't work, and I'm like, well, can we make them work? Like, how do we get these numbers to work? So I'm glad that you really touched on that, because a lot of people, I think, especially as first-time investors, you make that mistake of looking at it, and aesthetically it might look amazing, but then the numbers look like trash. So very cool. So I don't want to stop you. Oh, the other thing that you brought up that I think was key too is the area. Looking at an area and saying, well, is this an area where people are more prone to buy, or are they more prone to rent? Like I would have never thought about that before. So these are all of the little things that as you start to get into this, you start to discover and understand more and more and more about. And guys, here's the thing. If you're watching this and you're saying, I'd love to try my hand at real estate investing, if you are part of, you know, my base of subscribers, if you're not a subscriber yet, I have no idea why you're not. So go ahead and subscribe right now. But if you'd like to learn more about how you can get in contact with Lenny, we're going to talk about that in just a minute as well. So stay tuned. We'll give you a few ways to actually reach out to him and hear about some of the things that he has going on. But here's what I want you to do. Before we jump into how he structured his first deal, I want you to go over to kindlecashflow.com and request a copy of your free book, kindlecashflow.com. You can download this bad boy right here. It's normally $19.95, and in this book, right, what's going to happen is when you get this, you're going to understand everything that I've kind of come to learn through hard knocks about digital real estate and Kindle publishing over the last 12, 13 years. I put it all into this book. Normally sold for $20. You get a copy for free when you go to kindlecashflow.com. And then here's the thing. Once you start to learn how to take your income and create digital real estate, passive income, now you put some of that money into traditional real estate, which is where I'm at right now. So me and Leonard have been looking at deals. I'm taking this digital real estate money, putting it into physical real estate, and it just continues. It continues. So visit kindlecashflow.com. This is part of that taking action process that you talked about, Len, right? So
Absolutely.
Getting access to resources and doing what you have to do to pull yourself up. You may not have, a ton of money to get started right now with real estate. And I don't even know if a ton of money is required. Maybe this is what Len is about to talk about, right? But you have the resources to get started. They're all over the place. So Len, your first deal, what did that look like?
So the first deal, and it's two parts. This is one thing I want to mention to everybody just about the first deal, because it's a mindset thing, right? So, I looked at maybe, 40 to 60 homes before I found my first deal. When I found my first deal, okay, it was a distressed, property, and made a bid on it, and I lost.
Okay.
Now, truth be told is, for whatever reason, my gut just kept telling me that I can get this property. So I kept watching out on the MLS for it. Nothing. And it was a bank-owned property.
So MLS for the uninitiated that may not know. What is the MLS?
The MLS, that's just basically when you go to like realtor.com and people put their homes up to sell, gotcha. It goes on the list. So, us as buyers can look at them and purchase, right? So that's just an avenue to sell your home. So with this property, I decided to call the bank, man. Like maybe like a week or two later, I decided to call the bank and got through. And I asked them about the property, and this is me not even asking my realtor, right? I have a realtor. I just felt as though I needed to do it, right? And I did, and the lady, I'll never forget, the lady was like, no, so this property is available. I'm like, are you sure? She said, yeah. So I immediately called my realtor, right? And I told her the property, my realtor didn't believe me, if you want to know the truth.
Wait, it wasn't showing up on MLS anymore? It wasn't showing up in the listings?
It down because someone bidded on it and they got the bid, right?
Okay.
And then they just never relisted it, I guess, after the deal fell through.
So they weren't able to get the funding, or they didn't buy the deal. I got you. Got it. Makes sense. Okay.
So, and they just didn't get a chance to relist it back on MLS. So I called, and I had my realtor call, and we put in about, I think, $2,000 more, than the offering price. So once again, it was about the asking price was $23,000. Right. And I think we put in about $24,500. That's the bid.
Did you say the asking price was $23,000?
$23,000.
Look at that, folks.
$23,000. Now, a lot of people say, I don't have $23,000. Well, guess what? I didn't have $23,000 at one time either. But, my wife and I, when we started this journey, we decided to, take our money and start to save it, right? And which was a challenging thing, but we wanted something better for ourselves. So we decided to do it, and we was able to save that. So got the house for $24,500 or something like that, right. And I was ecstatic. Like I was super happy. And truth be told is, it wasn't in the best neighborhoods, right? It wasn't in the worst, but the school district in that neighborhood was amazing, right? Like it's better than the school district ranking wise than where I live, right? And so I decided to go there, and what I do and what I like to do is I like to ride through the development. I like to look at the properties, and I like to look at, is it a lot of trash out there? right? Because trash, if people are taking care of their properties or not. I like to look at the cars. What kind of cars are out there? Are the cars that working class people, or are they, abandoned cars and stuff like that? So when I did that kind of little research and I saw that people were taking care of their lawns, I saw that there wasn't no trash bags of potato chips flying around the street or anything like that. I said, this is good, right? And the rents over there was absolutely, amazing. So purchased it, obviously we rehabbed it. And then, I'm cash flowing off that one property, close to $900 a month.
Boom. Look at
That's
that.
after all expenses are paid.
You see that? That's so now, so you and your wife, you saved up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have the 25,000, 23,000 or whatever it took. I think that's important to people for people to understand, because we're in such a microwave society now where people just want things instantly.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have the discipline to stick with it. What made you say, I'm going to focus, we're going to buckle down, maybe cut out some things in our lives that weren't necessities at the time, and save, right? And how did you get your wife on board? Because that's an issue for a lot of people as well, right? Is getting their spouse, their significant on board and believing in their dreams, right? Let alone saying, hey, baby, you can't buy the Starbucks this week or for the next year because we're going to put it into our house. How do you do those things?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is sell, right? Like, you got to show that first. You have to believe.
Yeah. If it's to be, it's up to me.
If it's meant to be, it's up to me. And once I believe, I continuously, talked about it. That was my topic of conversation all the time.
That excitement, right? You got to be excited about it, because if you're, hey, this is it. No one's going to believe, well, I think this one might work. Let's do this.
Got to be excited. Then, I'm purchasing books, right? Yeah. So the books are coming in.
She sees you're serious, right? She sees.
Yeah, she sees. So I'm not even verbalizing anything. This is all action, guys and ladies. So they're physically seeing that you are taking this thing seriously.
Right.
And you're talking about it. So everywhere you go, you at the company's event, and you're just saying, man, I'm getting into real estate, blah, blah, blah. So you're talking it to existence. And then by doing that, the world start putting people around you, that have some level of experience. Maybe, you meet somebody that got to do with financing. So you get to talk to them and put them in your contacts, and they can tell you much more inside scoop and details on how to bank finance and how many loans you can get. There's a ton of different loans that you can get that you just wouldn't know. So by me doing these things and my wife seeing it, and also, let me tell you another help, by other people you're talking to who's in real estate, sitting here telling a story on how real estate is changing their lives. Make sure your wife is there.
Oh, that's beautiful. So they can hear that. They get the byproduct of.
Yeah. And also just.
Sometimes you might even have to set those conversations up. Hey, hold on. Remember that story you told me about how good it was? I want you to repeat that story when we had dinner and say it loud enough so that my wife can hear it.
Whatever you have to do, you have to do it. And then you also got to have a stern conversation. You got to let your wife know, or if it's
husband. Because sometimes it's the husband, right? Sometimes it's the boyfriend or the girlfriend or the mom or the dad or whoever it may be, the friend that has a lot of influence over you. Sometimes they don't believe in your dream, and why should they? It's your dream. You have to do the selling to get them to believe into it. It is your dream. So go ahead. I'm so passionate about this stuff, Len. I'm damn near about to take over the interview, and so I got to pull myself back every once in a while.
But you're hitting it right on point. And the one thing is, you do have to have a conversation with your significant other, I'm gonna call it, because you got to let them know and be very serious. But outside of the verbal, your actions have to match, and your actions honestly need to be 10 times, 20 times more than your verbal. And you you gotta allow time. You gotta allow time to sit there and build that for you. You know, that trust, that belief, that I'm saying, because it's your dream, not theirs.
Yeah.
All right.
I
And
think
all
we
you're
also,
looking for is just support.
yeah, you're supporting cast, right? You have to be the main character in this. And if you look at any movie, if you go to Disney World and you look at some of their productions that they put on, right? The main character often has to put in so much more work than the supporting cast, right? The main character is in so many more scenes, right? They have to have more endurance, more stamina, because they're putting in so much more work. And oftentimes when we'll tell our significants or our spouses that we want to do something, and when we don't carry through with those things, we're actually conditioning them to not believe us, right? So the next time on that 7th or that 8th opportunity that we present them with, you know, it's just like your mind. They're saying, well, what about opportunity number 1, number 2, number 3 that you told me that you were going to do, and you got interested in it for 2 weeks, and then you fell through, and I never heard you talk about it again. So right. Persistence and being there and staying on track with it when you present these things to not only the people outside of you, but also to yourself. Yes. Because the mind becomes this machine where you say, hey, I'm gonna work out like a madman, and then you do it for, you know, I'm gonna be buff, and next year while I'm at the beach, people are gonna ask me, well, what did you do and how'd you lose the weight? And then you get excited about it, and then next week you're on to the next thing. So you're conditioning your mind to not even believe you as well as other people around you. So you get this deal, you work it out, boom, the deal's closed, you're good. How'd you go about getting, like, next step is what? You went in and you rehabbed it. I heard you use that word. Yes. So talk about what'd you do to get it rehabbed, and then how'd you get your first tenant in there?
Well, you know, understand that there will be bumps in the road. And I like to use the word derailment. There would be things that would derail you off your path. And right. I like to use the word derail because that means that you get right back on your path. Well, so
derailment, and what was the other one?
Derailment, just, you know.
Oh, derailment. Gotcha.
So basically, you know, when I was rehabbing the home, I hired a contractor, and you know, and this is a powerful statement right here. Structure your payments in a certain way. You know, I structure mine typically in thirds, right? So we sit here and say, hey, you got to have this much work done, you know, to get withdrawal, have this much work done to get withdrawal. And I did, and it was wonderful for me for this situation because.
So dealing with your contractor, you pay them in thirds. Very smart. Yeah. Inside scoop right there, ladies and gentlemen.
And, you know, so I paid him. He did like a third worth of the work, and he never came back or showed up. So I was stuck. That was derailed, right? But guess what? There's 100 contractors out there that gives great prices and also, you know, do a fantastic thing. So that's what you did. You just have to get back on the horse, find another contract. I did, and they finished it out. Now the cool thing was I wasn't out of money, right? Because I only paid them for really what they did, you know. So I had enough money left over to sit there and get the rest of the job done. So that one.
Very smart to be able to pay them in installments like that. So all right, so that's the first thing.
But the second thing is the tenants, right? You know, I strongly suggest for everyone, I don't care where your property is, okay? You know, background check, credit check, and eviction check is a must, all right? You know, I use an application called My Smart Move, all right?
MySmartMove.com?
MySmartMove.com, okay? And what happens is anyone that's 18 and over must fill out an application, and they must pay an application fee. And the application fee pays for the background check, credit check, and eviction check. So you're never coming out of your pocket for anything. It's very simple. It's very easy. You just basically offer the application. You take the candidate email address and you just put it into My Smart Move. The candidate gets a email. They have to create an account, and then next thing you know, you get released their documents. And also what I like about My Smart Move, you get something called a renter score. Okay. And what that is basically, and this is powered by TransUnion, I believe. So, one of the big
TransUnion being one of the big credit bureaus. Got it. Cool.
Mm-hmm. So, just to give you an idea where this data is coming from. And they give you a renter score, and it's a renting system where they're basically giving you a strong suggestion to say, yes, this is a person that's okay to rent to, or I wouldn't suggest renting to this individual.
That's powerful, man. I didn't even know that there was such a thing. You've been holding out on me all this time. I didn't even realize that. So my smart move, as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this, I'm taking notes over here as well. I'm the student, right? Because this is something that, I'm actively engaged in right now. So now you bought the prop. You first listened to your gut, because initially this thing was not on the MLS. It got delisted, right? You thought you had lost out on it. Something inside of you said, call a bank directly. Right, you did, and it's good, because if you probably went in and called your real estate agent, she was under the belief that this was a done deal, so she probably would not have taken that action, right? So again, if it's to be, it's up to me. Boom, you took that upon yourself. Then even before that, you were able to get your wife on board, right? So get yourself on board, get your wife on board. You guys saved up. You bought the deal. You got a tenant in place. Now, dealing with tenants, do you have anything for the person that's listening and how
absolutely.
they
the first thing you want to do with your tenants is always lay out the expectations. So I have a speech that I tell them, listen, this is truthful, right? This is what I tell them. I say, look, we fix the place up, all right, and make it really nice so you can have a nice place to live, all right? And truthfully, I don't want to bother you. Hopefully you don't want to bother me. If the door handle or anything similar to that is loose or broke, my expectations are for you to get a screwdriver and tighten it up. Now, if there's a leaky faucet or anything of that sort of nature, then I expect a call. But I'm also assessing. So if it's just leaking, right, then I might tell you to put a bucket under there, and I have somebody come out during this time to service that situation. But if the roof is falling on your head, then obviously I'm sending someone out, immediately. And then I ask them right on the spot, if that's not the type of landlord you like, then guess what? I'm not the landlord for you. And they say, oh, no, that's fine. That's great, blah, 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 blah. And I lay out that expectation so they know. And I tell them in my lease, I have up to 48 hours to respond. So if you call me or text me or get in contact me or whatever the situations are, I have up to 40. Now, truth be told is, do I take up to 48 hours to respond? No. But what it does is it allows me to spend time with my family when I want to spend time with my family. So,
or during those times of emergencies when you may not be able to get there, right? You might be traveling or something, right? Or you can't get in contact with the person that you want to send there.
Yep.
Very smart.
Yep. So, that's really, what you want to do. Obviously, you want to have a lease that have all the pertinent information in it according to, your county, township, so you might want to consult with an attorney there, because obviously if you have to evict, you want to ensure that everything that's in the lease supposed to be there. I have to say, I have not evicted a tenant yet, due to the way that I screen my candidates. So I'm proud about that, but my lease is awesome. so that's very important to have in place. Another thing a lot of people don't talk about is ensuring that you have a renter license. Okay. Renter license, for every county, for every city, for every township is different. The process is different, right? I have 2 properties that's probably not even 5 minutes away from each other, but one street separates the townships.
Yep.
One renter license you get one time and that's it, right? Another renter on the other side of the township, the other renter license I got to get once a year, and they also got to come out and inspect the unit for any issues once a year. So,
wow, totally different.
Totally different. So always research your township, your county, your city that you're in, and ensure that you get that renter's license, the CO, right? I'm pretty sure everybody got a certificate of occupancy before you get somebody to move in. So just make sure you follow those guidelines, to ensure that yourself is safe, ensure, of course, the tenant, you're putting in is safe, and so forth.
Got it. Very smart. Very smart. Well, hey, Len, I appreciate your time, man. This is amazing right here. Fantastic. Lots of information. I think that for anyone that's interested in physical real estate, right? This is a great starting point right here. You've given them a lot of action steps. You've given them things that they can actually do. I think part of the most important part of this was you also gave them the mindset component of it, because usually when we hear someone talk about real estate investing, you're getting the mechanics, the how-tos, but oftentimes they leave out that foundation, the initial structure, and that is getting your mind right, as well as getting the expectations and the minds right of those around you. So for the person that's watching, that's listening, that wants to get more Lenny the Boss, how can they get in contact with you? What resources do you have available?
So obviously I'm on Instagram. I'm working on being a active player there, and that's Lenny _the _boss 723. So you can follow me there. I'm really heavy on Facebook, so look up Lenny the Boss, Leonard, Nesmith. Private message me, and say that you're a part of the Kindle family, and we can communicate there. I make sure I open up any and everything for you. All right, just if you do that. And also I'm on YouTube. You can follow me, Lenny the Boss there. And yeah, those are the areas.
Yeah. So I highly suggest that you go over to YouTube if you're on YouTube watching this, and do this right now, right? Take immediate action. Go follow Lenny, because he shares a ton of amazing, resourceful videos. You definitely don't want to miss out on that. And part of what he talked about in this interview was taking action, right? So that could be your first action step, is going in, following him on YouTube, following him on Instagram, following him on Facebook, or whichever platform is your platform of choice. Lenny, I know you just recently did a ride along, right?
Yes.
Can you talk about that really quickly, and we'll close it out with that? What's a ride along, and how can the person that's watching this, if they want to take place in the ride along that you're doing in the future, get involved?
Absolutely amazing. So I have a real estate ride along that I do, and it's unbelievable. You come, right? I have a Sprinter van, and we physically go to properties and we analyze the deal from the investor standpoint. And it's a lesson that you would not learn from anywhere else. Virtually, it's totally different, because you physically get to see the elements and how we deal with them. And then we also analyze the deal. So, I set it up where it's new to me. So, there's no pre-prep work or anything like that. We go in together, we all communicate together, we all work together. Then we go back and analyze the deal and talk about these things to see if it's a right property for you. And then obviously I also, go over about 4 different strategies that when you want to enter into real estate, you can. And it's big for individuals that are wanting to get into real estate, got 9 to 5s. And we also talk about, how to manage your time there as well.
Very cool. So they're actually able to ride along with you to these properties and see what that process is like, as you're looking at them and as you're figuring out the deal, able to ask questions. I think that's invaluable, man. I've never heard of such a thing before, you mentioning it. So if you're interested in attending one of Lenny's next ride-alongs, reach out to him. He gave you ways of reaching out on Facebook or Instagram and YouTube. And if you didn't catch that, rewind this and go ahead and make sure you reach out to him. Lenny, you're in New Jersey, right? But you have people that are literally flying in from across the country. Like someone doesn't have to be from the Northeast to attend one of these ride-alongs, or they even get more information from you. You've got folks that are clamoring to get in.
I mean, it's a really unbelievable thing, and and the feedback that I get from it, sometimes I don't even know that it was that unbelievable, but the value there of being physically at the property and understanding what you need to do and how I go about it, of ensuring that people who don't have the eye, how to learn to have one. I have basic techniques that I teach that are simplistic, which 100% makes sense on how to sit there and identify. I give you tips, a booklet on all the things that you need when you're going out to analyze a deal, and it's just an amazing thing. So, we spend, half of the day or a little bit over sometimes, looking at these properties, and then the other half, obviously going over strategies and analyzing deals.
Got it. Awesome. I got to say, this was one of my favorite interviews of all the interviews that I've done, because this is something I'm passionate about. And boom, there we go. So listen, folks, go over to KindleCashFlow.com, grab a copy of Kindle Publishing Secrets, watch the Kindle Cash Flow webinar, use the income that you generate from your digital real estate, and get that to help you to pay for your physical real estate. Also, make sure that you go in and comment, like, share, subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can go over to the YouTube channel by going to KindleCashFlow.com/YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, also subscribe to the podcast by going to KindleCashFlow.com/podcast. You want to be on as many platforms as possible. You want to subscribe, like, comment, share on as many platforms as possible. And that enters you in to win some of these amazing prizes that I spoke about earlier. So go ahead and do that right now. Remember, money loves speed. And regardless of what you want to do in life, if it's to be, it's up to me. Adopt that, make that your motto, and you'll start to see that things drastically change. Don't wait for people around you. You become the inspiration, and you start to bring them on. And soon, before you know it, you'll be in a much different place. Lenny, I appreciate you. Let's take this out with a big boom. 1, 2, 3. Boom!